This video is brought to you by mybookie.ag. What's up guys? This Saturday we got two events going on, the boxing fight between Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte, and then the UFC event which is an interesting one to say the least. So we're going to go over the boxing fight first. Tyson Fury is going to be fighting Dillian Whyte, and it's an important fight because, according to Tyson, this is his retirement fight. He said after this he's definitely retiring from the sport. Does that mean he's not going to come back to have some fun fights, potentially with like Francis Ngannou or something? No, he might be up for those kind of matchups, but in terms of fighting like contenders in the heavyweight division, this seems to be his last one, and that's kind of sad because we never got to see him fight Anthony Joshua. We didn't get to see him fight Usyk. Ending his career with Dillian Whyte doesn't seem fitting. It's kind of anticlimactic. That's not to take anything away from Dillian Whyte, but we never got to have that other matchup, that big fight for Tyson Fury in the heavyweight division, and that's boxing's fault. The politics from boxing really got in the way of Tyson Fury's potential, and because of that, I don't blame Tyson for wanting to retire after this one, which is frankly not as intriguing as some of Tyson's other fights in the past. Because here's the thing about Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury. Right off the bat, man, Fury is just a better boxer. He's just way more skilled, he's much bigger, he could potentially hurt Dillian Whyte, and what Dillian does in a fight isn't necessarily anything special or something that Tyson hasn't seen before. Tyson Fury compared Dillian Whyte to Deontay Wilder and said pretty much like he's a lesser version. For those who don't know who Dillian Whyte is, he's a good contender, respectable boxing skills, but he pretty much fights the way you would think a heavyweight boxer would fight. He has average offense backed up by a lot of power, he wants to brawl with you, he has a good chin, and then he has above average defense where he will shoulder roll your punches, he will attempt to counter you off of deflecting shots, and he can be pretty quick to back away from your offense. But there's not much that he throws forward than overhands, some left hooks, some uppercuts to the body, and a general 1-2 combination. These are the kind of punches that are going to be very hard to land on Tyson Fury. The overhand is his best shot. I see Tyson pulling away from it, counter Dillian throughout the whole fight, and keep a jab on him to disrupt everything that Dillian is trying to do, get him away from any potential brawling exchange, and Tyson Fury is a world-class fighter in the clinch. He knows how to clinch up with fighters, he knows when to clinch up with fighters whenever they get too aggressive, and he's so much bigger than Dillian, he can absolutely control the position that they're going to be in inside the ring whenever they tie up with each other. I think Fury's jab and right straight are going to be his main weapons for the fight, potentially some counter uppercuts here and there, look to clinch up a lot, but it really depends the kind of approach he has. Does he want to be more offensive, more aggressive to look for the finish, or is he going to coast this fight out into a decision, which he has done in the past? Some guys he was able to put it on them, but decided not to and just coast. And with this being his retirement fight, he is looking at retirement. His mentality about the fight might be very different than before, so it could be kind of unpredictable the way he comes out here. So my prediction for this, I'm going to go with Fury. I'm going to go by a decision win because Dillian does have a pretty good chin, and potentially Tyson Fury might not be all the way in on this fight, like mentally that is. I am getting that feeling out of Tyson, and that could be dangerous, where he should be able to absolutely dominate Dillian Whyte, but something tells me that he's just not going to be fully there mentally, and any heavyweight in the world can knock out each other, right? Tyson's going to have to face the heavyweight puncher's chance, and he has to treat this fight just like he treated the Deontay Wilder fights. And not only do I believe this, but many people believe that Tyson Fury is going to dominate this. I mean, he's over a 5-1 favorite. That is enormous, and the place you want to go to cash out on these odds is mybookie.ag. Best lines in the business, and even some interesting ones here, especially when you look at the Fury and Whyte fight. So Fury to win by a knockout, TKO, or DQ is a -150. That's certainly a lot better than a -575 to bet on, but then him winning by a decision is a +275. Those are both really good odds to go on. Whether you think that Fury is going to finish Whyte, can be pretty hard to do so, or he's going to coast this one out to a decision like he's done in the past with other fighters, that's a +275. That's really good right there too. Dillian Whyte to win by a knockout +450. That's hilarious. So on potentially Tyson Fury's last fight, this may be the last time you can actually go and bet on one of his fights. I believe he may be the best heavyweight of all time when it comes to his skills, and him losing to Dillian Whyte is something that seems kind of far-fetched. But again, in the heavyweight division, if his mind is not into it, if he's already thinking about that retirement, things can happen here, man. The +425 could make something work because Whyte is definitely going to be motivated here. He's fighting the best heavyweight on the planet. This is his only opportunity to beat Tyson Fury, and he's definitely going to take this one up with 100% focus. And that's the thing about fighting, man. You never really know sometimes. But I do believe that Tyson Fury should probably win this fight. He's definitely a necessary favorite. And when you go to mybookie.ag, remember they use the deposit bonus where they'll match up your first deposit all the way up to $1,000. You put $10, they give you another $10 to play with. Just use the promo code WEASEL to activate that offer. That's WEASLE. Use it to take advantage of MyBookie sign-up offer. Visit mybookie.ag today where you will find the best odds. And it also goes to the UFC fights as well. Some interesting fights there as well. I'm not gonna lie, man. This seems like a meme card. Look at the fighters that's on this. And also look at the matchups. Like, we do have Alexander Romanov, who a lot of people are really high on right now. But why would they match him up with Chase Sherman? I mean, Romanov is literally a minus like 1,300 favorite. One of the biggest favorites we've ever seen before. Like, Chase Sherman has no chance here, man. And look at the familiar face. Tyson Pedro is back. This guy hasn't fought since 2018 when he lost to Shogun Rua. He hasn't fought in 3.5 years, and now he's back. For his return, he's fighting Ike Villanueva. Tyson Pedro is of course going to be a massive favorite in this one, unless it's not warranted for the fact that he hasn't fought in 3.5 years. He might be super rusty. But Ike is an opponent that Tyson Pedro would run through 8 out of 10 times, maybe even 9 out of 10 times. And then we got Mike Jackson on the card. Yeah, Mike Jackson, the guy that lost to Mickey Gall like 5 years ago. And he's going up against a monster in Dean Barry. All I can say is this card is going to be a fun one. And we're going to start with the best fight on the entire card. No debate at all. Lando Vannata versus Charles Jourdain. This is a striker's dream. I mean, some of the most creative strikers we've ever seen in the sport. 2 guys that always go for the finish. 2 guys that only know how to go further on the gears. 2 guys that are not unfamiliar with going to war. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. And no wonder the odds are pretty much a pick'em here. Lando Vannata looked really good against Mike Grundy, and Charles Jourdain looked like a completely different fighter when he fought Andre Ewell. Both guys are switch stancers. Both guys will throw out there some creative combinations. Both guys aren't too known for their defense, more so for their offense, so you're going to see them get hit a lot in this one with big, powerful shots. Lando moves his head a lot, and he has pretty good footwork, but for some reason, he eats shots square to the face. It might be for the fact that he never has his hands up, and as for Charles Jourdain, it's kind of a similar thing, although he is more fundamental with his defense. But how much is that going to matter when Vannata is attacking him with unorthodox strikes? And honestly, it's extremely hard to predict this fight. When you got 2 guys that you have no idea how they're going to come out there like, it's hard to make a solid prediction, but man, it's going to be fun. So from the spinning attacks from Lando Vannata to the switch stance combinations from Jourdain, the speed Vannata has versus Jourdain's tenacity, anything can happen in this fight. But there is one big difference. When Lando Vannata loses fights, it's always close. This guy rarely ever gets dominated. Even when he goes up against Tony Ferguson, he had a striking match with David Tamer. When he fought Bobby Green, that was a draw. A draw with Matt Frevola. Close fight with Mark J. Casey. Drakkar Close. Bobby Green had a really good performance against him the second time, but it's so difficult for fighters to outright beat Vannata to that extent. And I don't see Charles Jourdain doing it either. Also, you do have to remember that Lando is coming down from the lightweight division. This one is in featherweight. He's shown to have really good power, shown to be pretty strong even against Mike Grundy, who's a great wrestler in his own right. So my prediction for this fight, I am going to go with Lando Vannata. The big reason as to why is whenever Charles Jourdain is moving forward and attacking with those switch combinations, he always leaves himself extremely open. And when you go back and look at his Julian Erosa fight, he does not deal well with getting pressured. Even Erosa doesn't have the greatest striking, really not that threatening on the feet compared to Vannata, and is not nearly as creative as Vannata is on the front foot. I think as soon as Vannata starts to control the fight a little bit, potentially using his size as an advantage, his power as an advantage, and ultimately looking for counter shots to set up his pressure, I think that's when Vannata is going to start tagging Charles Jourdain and potentially win by a TKO in the 3rd round. And then we go to the main event. Jessica Andrade returning back to the 115-pound division against Amanda Lemos, who is the number 11 ranked contender, but looking really good, man. She has tremendous power. The only fighter I can say that can match Andrade's power in the cage. These 2 girls can crack, man. Everybody knows Andrade's power. Everybody knows her strength with her single legs, but this may be the first time that Andrade cannot be reckless moving forward. Actually, no, I forgot about the Zhang Weili fight. Yeah, Andrade paid for rushing Zhang Weili the way she did, who herself has a lot of power, but Amanda Lemos has more knockout potential. And she's a natural counterpuncher. She has an extremely good backstep right hand. And Andrade loves to blitz in forward with those left hooks, potentially straight punch being looping punch, as Andrade is moving forward. But at the same time, Lemos does not move her head at all. She's keen on brawling it out with you, and she might pay doing that with Andrade, who dips her head all over the place. Probably will be harder to hit than hitting Lemos, and there's always going to be that single leg attempt from Andrade in case they do brawl. And I believe if it goes to the ground, that's where Andrade is definitely going to take over the fight. The top pressure is going to be there, the ground and pound shots, and a potentially chase for a submission in case Lemos gets a bit uncomfortable on the bottom. But I could definitely see Lemos landing some really good strikes on Andrade on the feet with head kicks, front kicks to the face like she hurt Angela Hill with. That backstep right hand, like I said before, jabs are going to be very important. And you know what's pretty interesting? Jessica Andrade is 30 years old. She's been doing this for so long. I mean, look at the fighters that she beat. She's fought everybody from flyweight to strawweight, everyone that there is to fight, and she's only 30 years old. That's crazy, man, and she looked amazing against Cynthia Calvillo, potentially better than we've ever seen her. And then you look at Amanda Lemos, who has half the experience. If you talk about competition, less than half the experience. She's 34 years old. But my prediction for this fight, I do not agree with the odds that Jessica Andrade is over a 2-1 favorite. I think this fight could potentially be closer if Lemos can keep the fight on the feet. She has tremendous power that people could not overlook. If anybody could hurt Andrade, it is Lemos. So I would not be surprised at all if Lemos actually hurts Andrade early in the fight and finishes her off, very similar to the way Zhang Weili did. But at the same time, Andrade isn't fighting as reckless as she used to. If you look at her flyweight fights, she was much more composed than she ever was in strawweight. That only shows the maturity of her game. So because of that aspect, I am going to lean at Jessica Andrade's side, and I have her winning by a 4th round TKO. I don't think Lemos can go 5 rounds with her, because the odd thing about Jessica Andrade is, yes, she's like the most powerful fighter, but she also has some of the best cardio, which really doesn't make sense. So I think the further the fight goes, the more grappling is involved, the better chances Andrade has for winning this. And that's the end of the prediction, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit the bell as well, and put your predictions down in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys pick, and I'll see you guys in the next video.